I never thought love could have an expiration date tied to a number on a scale. But standing outside that kitchen door, listening to my husband of 3 years tell his best friend exactly what he thought of my body, I realized some truths are too devastating to unhear. What happened next changed everything, not just about our marriage, but about who I thought I was. When I met David at that coffee shop on 5th Street, I was a size 8. Perfect hourglass figure, they said. Long auburn hair that caught the light just right and a smile that could stop traffic. At least, that's what he told me on our second date. "You're absolutely stunning, Sarah," he whispered that first night he stayed over, tracing my waist. With his fingertips, "I can't believe you're mine." Those early months felt like a fairy tale. David would surprise me with weekend getaways, expensive dinners, and flowers that arrived at my office just because it was Tuesday. His friends envied him. At parties, I'd catch him showing me off, his arm permanently wrapped around my waist, pulling me close whenever another man so much as glanced my way. "She's a catch, isn't she?" he'd say with that charming grin that made my heart skip. And I believed it. God help me. I believed every word. Our wedding day was everything I'd dreamed of. As I walked down that aisle in my size 8 dress, David's eyes filled with tears. "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," he mouthed, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive. But fairy tales, as I would learn, have a way of ending when real life begins. The changes started so gradually, I almost missed them. A comment here, a suggestion there. It began about 6 months after our honeymoon. "Honey, maybe we should start eating healthier," David said one evening, eyeing the pasta I'd prepared. "I mean, we're not getting any younger." I laughed it off. "We're 28, David. I think we'll survive a little carbs." But then came the gym membership he bought me for my birthday. "I thought we could get fit together," he said, though he somehow always had work emergencies whenever I suggested going. The comments became more frequent, more pointed. "That dress is a little tight, don't you think?" he'd say, as I got ready for dinner with friends. "Maybe skip the dessert tonight, babe. You know how bloated you get?" Each comment felt like a tiny pinprick, insignificant alone, but together they formed a pattern I was too in love to recognize. The scale became my enemy. Every morning, I'd step on it with held breath, hoping the number would please him. Because somewhere in those months, pleasing David had become more important than pleasing myself. When I hit size 10, he stopped initiating intimacy. When I reached size 12, he stopped complimenting my appearance altogether. By size 14, he'd stopped looking at me entirely. "Sarah, we need to talk." Those 5 words, delivered on a rainy Thursday evening, made my stomach drop. David sat across from me at our kitchen table, his wedding ring catching the overhead light as he drummed his fingers against the wood. "I've been thinking about us," he continued, his voice clinical, cold. "About our future. What about it? You've changed since we got married." His eyes flicked to my midsection before looking away. "I married someone who cared about her appearance, about staying attractive for her husband." The room spun. "David, I've gained maybe 20 pounds. Still the same person? Are you?" He leaned back in his chair. "'Cause the woman I married wouldn't have let herself go like this. Let myself go. As if my worth as a human being was tied to whether I could still fit into my wedding dress. I work 50 hours a week, David. I cook, I clean, I take care of everything while I what? Work my ass off to provide for us, to give you the life you wanted." His voice rose. "The least you could do is put in some effort." At night, he slept in the guest room. It wouldn't be the last time. The silence that followed was worse than any argument. David would come home from work, eat the dinner I'd prepared without a word, then disappear into his study. Weekends meant golf with the boys, business dinners I wasn't invited to, and conversations that never went deeper than grocery lists and bill payments. I began to shrink into myself. But ironically, the more emotionally small I became, the more Physically large I grew. Food became comfort. Late-night ice cream sessions while David worked late became my secret shame. The scale crept higher. Size 16, then 18. Each pound felt like another nail in our marriage's coffin. The worst part wasn't the comments or the silence. It was the way David looked at me, or rather, the way he looked through me, as if I'd become invisible in my own home. I tried everything. Diets, exercise classes, even considered surgery. Nothing worked fast enough. Nothing was ever enough. Maybe we should see a counselor. I suggested one morning over breakfast. David didn't even look up from his phone. There's nothing wrong with me, Sarah. I'm not the one who's changed. That's when I realized I was fighting this battle alone. While I was desperately trying to save our marriage, David had already checked out. The loneliness was suffocating. I'd sit in our beautiful home surrounded by wedding photos and memories of better times, feeling like a ghost haunting my own life. But sometimes the universe has a way of showing you exactly where you stand. Sometimes it forces you to hear truths you've been too afraid to face. It was a Saturday afternoon in October when everything shattered. David was hosting his monthly poker game, something that used to include wives, but somehow evolved into boys only around the time I hit size 14. I was in the kitchen, preparing snacks like the dutiful wife I'd become when I heard David's voice drift through the slightly open door. Honestly, I don't know what happened to her. He was saying to his friend Mike, "When I married Sarah, she was this sexy, confident woman. Now look at her." My hands froze on the sandwich. I was cutting. She's gained what, 40 pounds? Maybe 50? I can barely stand to look at her anymore, let alone touch her. The knife slipped, nicking my finger. Blood welled up, but I barely felt it. The pain in my chest was too overwhelming. "That's rough, man." Mike's voice. "Have you talked to her about it?" David laughed. Actually laughed. "What's to talk about? She knows what she looks like. She knows I'm not attracted to fat women. I married a trophy wife, not whatever this is now. So what are you going to do?" "I don't know. Maybe I'll stick it out a few more years, see if she gets her act together. If not." He paused, and I could practically hear him shrugging. "There are plenty of fish in the sea. Younger fish, thinner fish." The room erupted in laughter. From his friends, my husband, the man who'd promised to love me in sickness and health, for better or worse, was discussing me like a broken appliance he was considering replacing. I stood there bleeding onto my apron, listening to the man I'd devoted my life to reduce me to nothing more than a body that had disappointed him. But something else was happening too, something I hadn't felt in years. Anger, pure, white-hot. Liberating anger. That night, after David's friends left, and he'd passed out on the couch reeking of beer, I sat in our bedroom staring at myself in the full-length mirror. For so long, I'd seen only what David saw, the extra weight, the stretch, marks the ways my body had changed. But for the first time in years, I tried to see what I saw. I saw a woman who'd sacrificed pieces of herself trying to be perfect for someone who'd never deserved her in the first place. I saw someone who'd forgotten that love isn't conditional on dress size. Okay? I saw Sarah, not David's disappointment. Not his trophy gone wrong, but me. The woman who'd graduated summa cum laude from college, who'd built a successful career in marketing before. David convinced me to take a less demanding job so I could focus on us. Who'd given up friends, hobbies, and dreams because they didn't fit into David's vision of the perfect wife. I'd been so busy trying to shrink my body to make him happy that I'd shrunk my entire life. That was the night I decided to stop. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I made plans without asking David's permission first. "I'm going out," I announced as he nursed his hangover with black coffee and self-pity. "Where does it matter?" He looked up, surprised by the edge in my voice. "Sarah, what's wrong with you?" Everything I wanted to say. Everything is wrong. And it starts with letting you make me believe I wasn't enough. Instead, I grabbed my keys. I'll be back later. I drove to the salon where I'd gotten my hair done for our wedding. I want something completely different, I told Maya, my stylist. 3 hours later, my waist-length auburn hair was gone, replaced by a chic bob that framed my face and made my eyes pop. For the first time in years, I felt pretty, not pretty. For David, not pretty by his standards, but pretty for me. Next stop, the lawyer's office. I want to understand my options, I told the divorce attorney, Margaret Chen, as she reviewed my situation. You have more power than you think, she said, sliding a card across her desk. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. That evening, David barely looked up when I walked in. The new haircut, the confidence in my step, none of it registered. He was too busy scrolling through his phone to notice his wife was disappearing. Right in front of him. Perfect. Over the next few weeks, I became a woman with a secret. While David continued his routine of indifference punctuated by casual cruelty, I was building a new life. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. Lisa, my college roommate, nearly cried when I called. Sarah, my God, I was starting to think David had you locked in a tower somewhere. We haven't heard from you in over a year. I know. Things got complicated. Complicated how? Are you okay? I hesitated, then decided on honesty. No, but I'm working on it. That conversation led to coffee dates, which led to girls' nights, which led to me remembering who I'd been before I became Mrs. David Marshall. I also started looking for a new job. My current position at the small marketing firm paid decent money, but it was beneath my qualifications. David had convinced me to take it because it was less stressful and gave me more time to focus on our home. Now, I saw it for what it really was, another way he'd kept me small. The interview at Henderson & Associates went better than I'd hoped. Your portfolio is impressive, the hiring manager said. Why are you looking to leave your current position? I'm ready for a challenge, I replied. I've been playing it safe for too long. The offer came a week later. Senior Marketing Director. 60% salary increase. Full benefits. I accepted without hesitation. You did what? David's face was red with anger as he processed what I'd just told him. I'd waited until after dinner, when he was relaxed and unsuspecting, to drop the bomb about my new job. I accepted a position at Henderson & Associates. I start Monday, without discussing it with me first. I set down my wine glass and looked him straight in the eye. When did you discuss your poker games with me, or your decision to exclude? Wives from what used to be couples events, or your opinion of my body with your friends? The color drained from his face. What are you talking about? I heard you, David. Last month during your poker game. Every disgusting word. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For once in our marriage, David Marshall was speechless. You called me a disappointment. Said you married a trophy wife, not whatever I am now. Discussed replacing me like I was a broken appliance. Sarah, I'm not finished. My voice was steady, controlled. You're right about one thing. I have changed. But not in the way you think. I stood up, walking to the window that overlooked our perfectly manicured backyard. I've remembered who I was before I met you. Before I let you convince me that my worth was tied to whether you found me attractive. That's not what I meant, isn't it? I turned back to face him. Because for 3 years you've made it very clear that love is conditional. That I'm only worthy of respect, affection, and basic human decency when I meet your physical standards. David's jaw tightened. Marriage is about being attractive to your spouse. About making an effort. Is it? Because I don't remember making those vows. I remember promising to love you for better or worse, in sickness and health. I remember committing to a partnership, not a performance. You've let yourself go, Sarah. You can't deny that. The old me would have crumbled at those words. The old me would have apologized, promised to try harder, begged for another chance to earn his love. The new me smiled. You're absolutely right. I have let myself go. I've let go of the need to be perfect for you. I've let go of the belief that I'm not enough, exactly as I am. And starting Monday, I'll be letting go of this marriage too. The divorce papers were served on a Tuesday. David was so shocked he actually dropped his morning coffee, staining his precious Italian leather shoes. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Sarah, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. There's nothing to work out. David, you don't love me. You love the idea of me, a version of me that exists only to make you look good and feel important. He tried everything over the next few weeks. Promises to change, romantic gestures, even flowers, the same white roses he'd given me when we were dating, as if he could buy his way back to my good graces. But I was done being bought. The hardest part wasn't dealing with David's attempts at reconciliation. It was dealing with the people who thought I was making a mistake. Marriage is work, honey, my mother said during one of our phone calls. You can't just give up when things get hard. This isn't about giving up on work, Mom. This is about recognizing that I was doing all the work in a relationship where I was never going to be enough. But he's a good provider. I can provide for myself. I could. My new job was everything I'd hoped it would be. Challenging, fulfilling, financially rewarding. My colleagues respected me for my mind, not my measurements. My boss, Sandra, became a mentor who pushed me to reach for goals I'd forgotten I had. You have real leadership potential, she told me during my 3-month review. Have you ever considered starting your own agency? The old Sarah would have laughed off such a suggestion. The new Sarah took notes. 6 months after I'd moved out of David's house and into my own apartment, I barely recognized my life. My place was small, but mine decorated with art I loved. Books I wanted to read, furniture that was comfortable rather than impressive. No more pristine white couches that couldn't be sat on. No more dining rooms that existed only for show. I'd started working out not because I wanted to lose weight, but because I discovered I enjoyed feeling strong. The gym became my sanctuary, a place where I could push my limits and celebrate what my body could do rather than hate it for what it looked like. The weight came off gradually. Some of it, I went from a size 18 back down to a 14, then stabilized there. My body had found its natural set point, and for the first time in years, I was okay with that. Better than okay. I was proud. I was proud of my arms that could lift weights I'd never dreamed of before. I was proud of my legs that carried me through 5K runs. I was proud of my mind that was sharp and creative and valued in my professional life. I was proud of my heart that was learning to love again, starting with myself. It was at Lisa's birthday party that I saw him, tall, kind eyes, genuine smile. James was a friend of her husband's, a high school teacher who spent his weekends volunteering at the animal shelter. You have the most beautiful laugh, he said when we were introduced, and something in his tone made me believe he meant it. We talked for hours that night about books, travel, our shared love of terrible reality TV shows. Not once did he comment on my appearance. Not once did I catch him checking out other women. When he asked for my number, I hesitated. I should probably tell you, I said. I'm recently divorced. Still figuring things out. We all are, he replied. That's what makes life interesting. Our first date was coffee and a bookstore browse. Our second was a hiking trail where James patiently waited when I needed to catch my breath. Our third was cooking dinner together at my place where he complimented my marinara sauce and didn't comment on the calories. You're different from other women I've dated, he told me one evening as we walked through the park near my apartment. My heart clenched. Here it comes, I thought. The comparison, the suggestion for improvement, the condition attached to his affection. How so? You're so present, like you're actually here, you know? Not performing or trying to be someone else. It's refreshing. I stopped walking, James. Yeah, thank you. For what? For seeing me. He kissed me then, soft and sweet under the streetlights, and for the first time since my divorce, I felt the possibility of love without conditions. A year after my divorce was finalized, I ran into David at the grocery store. I was in the produce section debating between organic and regular apples when I heard his voice behind me. Sarah. I turned, and the man I saw looked older, tired. The confident swagger that had once attracted me was gone, replaced by something that looked almost defeated. Hi, David, you look. He paused, taking in my appearance. I was in yoga pants and a comfortable sweater, my hair in a messy bun, no makeup. Size 14 and comfortable in my skin. You look good. Happy? Thank you. An awkward silence stretched between us, filled with the weight of everything we'd never properly said to each other. I heard about your promotion, he said finally. VP of Marketing, right? Senior VP, actually? And I'm launching my own consultancy next year. His eyebrows rose. Wow, that's great, Sarah. Really? Another pause. I also heard you're seeing someone. Small towns. I am. Does he make you happy? The question surprised me with its sincerity. For a moment, I glimpsed the man I'd fallen in love with all those years ago, before the criticism, before the conditions, before we'd lost each other in the pursuit of some impossible perfection. Yes, I said simply. He does. David nodded, looking down at his hands. I'm glad you deserve that. David, I know I wasn't a good husband to you, Sarah. I know I said things, did things. I'm sorry. I really am. 'Twas the apology I'd waited 3 years to hear. And now that it was here, I realized I didn't need it anymore. I'd forgiven David not for his sake, but for mine. I'd let go of the anger because carrying it was heavier than the weight I'd gained. Thank you for saying that. Do you think? Would it be okay if I asked how you did it? Did what? Found yourself again? Found happiness. I feel like I've been searching for something ever since you left, and I don't even know what it is. I studied his face, seeing genuine confusion there. You start by loving yourself enough to stop needing everyone else to validate your worth. Then you surround yourself with people who see your value beyond the surface. He absorbed this quietly. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me, didn't I? The old Sarah might have taken that as an opening, might have felt a flutter of hope or a vindication. The new Sarah felt only compassion. You lost a good thing, David, but I think we both needed to lose each other to find ourselves. 2 years later, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, getting ready for another day. The reflection looking. Back at me wasn't the size 8 woman David had married. Nor was it the size 18 woman who'd heard him mock her body to his friends. It was something far more valuable. It was a woman who knew her worth wasn't measured in pounds or dress sizes. The business was thriving beyond my wildest dreams. James and I had moved in together 6 months ago, into a house we'd chosen. Together because we both loved the big kitchen and the reading nook by the front window. He was still teaching, still volunteering, still making me laugh every single day. More importantly, he was still seeing me, not just looking at me, but truly seeing who I was beneath everything else. Morning, beautiful, he said, appearing. In the doorway with 2 cups of coffee, morning yourself, handsome. He handed me my mug and kissed my forehead. Big presentation today, the biggest yet. If this client signs, we'll need to hire 2 more consultants. You nervous? Considered the question. 3 years ago, I would have been terrified. Worried about what I looked like, whether I was smart enough, whether I deserved success. No, I said, surprised by how true it was. I'm excited. That's my girl. My girl, not his trophy, not his disappointment, not his project to fix. His partner, his equal, his choice. That afternoon, after landing the biggest contract in my company's short history, I called Lisa to celebrate. I'm so proud of you, she said, and I could hear her smiling through the phone. Remember when you thought your life was over because of the divorce feels like a lifetime ago. What would you tell that, Sarah? It's the one who was standing in her kitchen 3 years ago, listening to David tear her apart. I thought about it as I watched the sunset through my office window. What would I tell that broken, devastated woman who thought her world was ending? I'd tell her that sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you is actually the best thing in disguise. That losing someone who never really loved you makes room for people who do. That your worth was never tied to his opinion, and it never will be. And that the woman she's about to become is so much stronger and happier than the woman she was trying to stay. If someone had told me 5 years ago that my husband calling me fat behind my back would be the catalyst for the best years of my life, I would have called them crazy. But here's what I learned. Love isn't about being perfect for someone else. It's about being accepted, cherished, and valued exactly as you are while still growing and evolving as a person. Real love doesn't have conditions attached to it. It doesn't come with weight limits or dress size requirements. Doesn't disappear when you have bad days or gain a few pounds or get sick or grow old. Real love sees you at your worst and chooses to stay, celebrates your successes, and supports you through failures. It loves your mind as much as your body, your dreams as much as your appearance. I thought David's rejection broke me, but it actually freed me. It freed me to discover that I was whole all along. I'd just forgotten. Today, I'm not the woman David married, and I'm not the woman he divorced. I'm someone entirely new, someone who knows that the most important love story isn't the one that ends with a wedding, but the one that begins with loving yourself. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in my story, please hear this: you are enough. Right now, exactly as you are enough. Your weight doesn't determine your worth. Your dress size doesn't define your value. Your body is not your apology to the world. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions, respect that doesn't fluctuate with the scale, and happiness that doesn't depend on someone else's approval. It took me 30 years and a devastating betrayal to learn this truth, but I'm grateful I learned it at all. Because once you know your worth, nobody can convince you you're worthless. And that, my friends, is the most liberating truth of all. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, your journey to self-love and happiness starts with a single step. Take that step today. Like this video if it moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions. And tell me in the comments, what's one thing you wish you could tell your past self? Your story matters, and you never know who needs to hear it. Till next time, remember, you are worthy of love exactly as you are.